My name is Giovanni Martinez, Juan Rodriguez, and Raquel, and we're gonna be analyzing Walmart to see if we're gonna be buying, selling, or holding the stock. So first we're gonna be doing an overview of the industry. So Walmart is part, obviously, of the retail industry. Walmart is one of the main competitors in it. So just a quick overview about the industry itself. In the United States, the retail industry generates about $3.63 trillion, and globally, about $24.63 trillion. One of the main aspects about the retail industry is the explosive growth that the e-commerce has been having. So after analyzing what is the importance about this sector and on the growth of the specific companies that we were all used to seeing being the major leaders of the industry itself, we have noticed that of the retail industry total growth, e-commerce last year represented 51.9% of that growth. So you can see how that explosive growth is being driven by the e-commerce. Also, e-commerce last year represented about 14.2% of the total sales of e-commerce in the United States. So going into more current environment about the industry itself, obviously Amazon is leading the charge on the e-commerce industry, the retail industry part. So having about a 49.1% of the market share of the e-commerce retail. But mainly from the research that we got, the main area or market that major companies are focusing on right now that are looking to expand on the retail industry is India. About 31% growth is expected in the e-commerce retail in India for next year. This is an economy that generated about $32.7 billion just in the e-commerce side of retail. So you're going to be seeing later on in our presentation how major companies like the one we're analyzing, Walmart, are focusing their efforts in order to gain a lot of market share in this economy.
So moving on to the company overview, we start off with the mission and vision statement from the company. We can see the mission statement says, to save people money so they can live better. This is currently focusing on how Walmart targets low pricing to attract more customers. For the vision, it says be the destination for customers to save money no matter how they want to shop. This is, again, focusing on low prices, but mostly on their omni-channel presence that they have on the market. They accommodate the shopping preferences that their customers have for them to shop more comfortably, however they want to do it. We move into revenues in target market. Something important to know is that Walmart has the biggest revenue in the retail industry as of every competitor. We compared this graph on the right, Walmart shoppers to the total of the US, and we can see that the differences are between the high class and the middle class. More middle class people shop in Walmart, and less high-class people shop in Walmart compared to other stores. For the competitors, we chose to focus on these five: Amazon, Costco, Target, Alibaba, and Kroger. But our main focus right now will be on Amazon because of the things that my peer mentioned about the e-commerce retail. We now can see that Amazon has almost half the market share of the e-commerce, and Walmart is looking to tackle that. Right now, Walmart is sitting at 3.7%. And they're making efforts to find more ways to penetrate that market and make more competition to Amazon.
So for our company overview, Walmart has a current revenue for the year 2018 of $114 million, an EBITDA of $21.9 billion, and we observe that for their cost of goods sold and their SG&A, they have margins around 75% of sales from the COGS and 20% of sales from the SG&A. So they respect this margin and they try not to surpass this limit. For their net income, they have $7.18 billion. And as my peers mentioned, they are trying to penetrate the e-commerce market, and which actually represent just 4.24% of their sales. So they are growing. The U.S. sales represent $15.7 billion, and the international sales $6.7 billion. So some ratios. The current ratio of Walmart is 0.80, and the weak ratio 0.23. As you can see, these are low ratios. And this is due to the inventory. The inventory represents a large portion of the firm's current assets. The inventory turnover is of 8.70, which is a little bit below the average of the industry, which is 9.1%. The asset turnover is 2.4, which is also below the industry average of 3.2%. The fixed asset turnover is of 4.89, which is also below the retail industry average of 5.7%. The return on assets is 3.40%, which decreased from 2017. It was 5.20, and it decreased because they consolidated a net loss on Walmart Brazil. They had to sold Walmart Brazil, and they consolidated the net loss on their income statement. Their return on equity is 8.87%, which also decreased due to the amount of investments they are doing in the e-commerce. The debt ratio is 26%. Is increasing. On average, they have a 20% from the past 5 years. It is increasing because they are getting more debt in order to penetrate the e-commerce market. The interest coverage ratio is 9.36, which has also decreased. They usually have a 12.30% interest coverage ratio. Okay, so stock performance. This graph compares the cumulative total shareholder return on Walmart's common stock during the 5 fiscal years from 2013 to 2019. 18, sorry, to the cumulative returns on the S&P 500 Retailing Index and the S&P 500 Index. And they are assuming that $100 were invested on February 1 of 2013 in shares of Walmart. So, as you can see, it was below those benchmarks, and this is due to Walmart's beta. They have a beta of 0.65, which means that if the stock's return is 10%, or the market return, sorry, is a 10%, Walmart's return would be 6.5%. So the main acquisitions that they had was Jet.com in 2016 for $2.4 billion. That's the reason why their net income decreased in that year. They also acquired JD Shares, the Chinese e-commerce company, for $1.9 billion. And their most recent acquisition was in 2018, in which they acquired, as my peer mentioned, Flipkart, the Indian business Flipkart, for $16 billion. So that's why their income was like significantly reduced to $7.17 billion.
Okay. Now, I know that we have already spoke about this, maybe every other class, about the economic outlook of the world and also the United States. But just a quick recap, we understand that the United States, the unemployment rate is of about 3.8%. Also, the GDP growth last year of the United States was of about 2.2%. And the IMF, they cut their global forecast growth to 3.3% for 2019. So taking all of that into consideration, we jump into the growth rate. So it was a bit difficult for us to jump to conclude into a specific growth rate, but what we did was that we went in and did the real economic growth rate formula. So we wanted to go a little bit more specific into how the economies of the world and the United States would affect the sales growth of Walmart. So we understand that Walmart is a company that is highly dependent on the residual earnings of consumers. So after all their expenses, the income that they already have left that they can use to acquire any other goods. So what we did was that we weighted this formula. So 65% of the total sales of Walmart come from their United States operations. 24% come from their international division, and the other remainder, 11%, come from the Sam's Club, which is a special division that is mainly focused between the United States and Canada. So what we did was we multiplied the growth rate of the United States GDP, we divided it by the inflation rate, so that's the formula, we weighted it. The same thing with the global forecast. This number will be representative of the inflation rate. We took the inflation rate of every single nation that Walmart has operations outside of the United States and created an average of that, so that we use that for our forecast of inflation, and that 3.3% is the IMF global forecast. And Sam's Club, that is the average of the GDP growth and the inflation rate between Canada and the United States. So here are the assumptions. So also that formula, we also mentioned the importance of the e-commerce for the growth of Walmart and all the other competitors in the industry. So what we wanted to do was include that e-commerce growth in our growth rate in order to be able to show that that effort that they're doing in order to push their products more on the online market. So in total, we got to a 2.6% growth rate of sales. As my colleague here, Raquel, said, the Walmart and other major competitors in the industry, they have a very respectful approach to the cost of goods sold. That margin of 75% between the total sales and the cost of goods sold. We are here taking into consideration that a probable slowdown in the economy will result in a higher cost of goods sold, and that'll be maybe the first time that they are actually going over the top into that cap, but we are accounting for that. The SG&A will also be affected, will remain pretty consistent over the next years, and yeah, so that is, the other ones are more fixed.
I'm curious in how you got the growth rate. Is it in the, do you have a copy of the report?
For this presentation, can we stop the time?
Sorry?
Can we stop the time? The time.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just.
On this, on the PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah.
I can print it out.
Oh, no, the copy, the.
The
10-page.
report.
No, we don't.
You know, could you do that?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
After the,
No
go
problem.
ahead.
Okay, so these are our calculations for the CAPM and the WAC. We use a reference rate of 3%, the market rate of 8.75, the beta of Amazon is 0.65, and our required rate of return resulted
So
in a.
you use the 3%, which is basically what I gave you guys as guideline, you know,
Yes.
that's great for the United States, but Walmart has global operations. So did you consider perhaps looking at the risk premium for different markets and then doing a weighted average for the risk premium?
No, we did not. Mainly because 65% of the sales of Walmart come from there, from the United States. So it's mainly the average or the majority. So we understand the point where we focus more on the United States in that aspect.
So if you have a couple of hours after we get down today, let's say 8 o'clock or so, by 11:59, if you could, it might brush up your presentation a bit further. So take a look at that, see where the revenues are coming from, and then apply a weighted average for, just like you did on the growth, and that's something that I'd like to go through when you send me the report, a little detail. But if you can apportion the risk-free rate, you know, in proportion to the revenue generation, whether it will come from, it might be more representative. Go ahead.
And for our WAC calculation, we measure the debt to equity, which is 64.08%. For the risk-free rate, we use the 3%. The equity risk premium resulted in a 5.75%. The levered beta 0.65. It resulted in the cost, it's the same cost, 6.74. For the cost of debt, we add the spread of 0.
And how did you get so this is beta of Amazon?
Walmart.
Okay, it says Amazon.
Oh, that's upside.
Where?
Minor detail. Minor detail.
That's upside.
Alright. I picked it out, by the way.
Yeah,
So
that's-
I'm concentrating,
that's-
I'm
that's-
listening to you, at
Thank
least
you.
you know. How did you get that?
That's the beta for the last 3 years.
Yeah, okay, so you guys did it on a regression basis, or did you?
Yes,
run a regression
so
analysis?
we did, so we brought out all the weekly changes of, we took 5 different indexes. We took, for example, the Dow Jones Industrial, S&P. So then we did the standard deviation, and then we were able to do that slope function, and we got that.
How does it compare to the published, each analyst published data?
I'm sorry, can you?
It's
How does
almost
it-
the 0.66. They have
Good stuff.
0.65.
Let's go ahead, good stuff, yeah.
Okay, so for the cost of debt, we added the spread of 0.75 given the rating of the company, based on the interest coverage ratio, 8.75. And we got 2.44, and the WACC resulted in 5.06%. So for our discounted cash flow, these are our assumptions. Tax rate 35%, the WACC 5.06, a perpetual growth of 1.44. We measure it by calculating a sustainable growth rate, the return on equity times the flow-bar ratio, and we adjusted it to inflation, and we got that 1.44%. The EV to EBITDA multiple of 10.79, current price of 103.18, share outstanding 2.87 billions, the net debt of $45,400, and the capex of $10.3 billion. In their 10K, they announced that they will increase their capex during the following years, and they specify that in 2019, these years, they will make $11 billion in capex. Okay, so we discounted the cash flow by the WACC. We got the present value of those, and we added it to the terminal value. We have the terminal value in there and the PV of the terminal value. So we added the present value of the cash flows to the PV of the terminal value, and we got the intrinsic value of the company, the enterprise value of $370 billion. Okay. We subtracted the net debt, and we got the equity value, which resulted in an equity value per share of 113.26. On the other hand, we have the market value, but in here we are adding back the net debt, and we got an equity value per share of $119.
Where is it trading at right now?
103. 103. 103.
So that's how we calculate it, making a difference of 5 points.
Okay, so for residual earnings, we took the BPS from the internet as well. Our 6.74% is our cost of equity. So we begin by forecasting the EPS by dividing net income by shares outstanding. Our dividends per share, we forecasted them at a 1.89% growth, constant growth rate, which resulted in 4 cents every year increase. Then we subtract the difference from EPS and DPS, added to the previous BPS to get the current BPS of the year. The ROC will be the EPS of the year over the BPS of the current year. Then we do the residual earnings with the charge, which is EPS minus the multiplication of the BPS of the past year times the cost of equity. Then we would do the discount rate, which is just the cost of equity to the power of each year. Find the PV of the residual earnings. Then sum all of them to get the total PV at the beginning. For the continuing value, we use the last residual earnings, which was the 2.78 times 1 plus the sustainable growth rate she mentioned of 1.44, divided it by 1 plus the discount rate minus 1 plus the growth rate. At the end, we did the PV of the continuing value, added the BPS, the total PV of residual earnings, and the PV of continuing value to get a value per share of 69.9.
We have less than 1 minute, so I'm gonna do this quick. So the continuous value for year 2020, we focused more on the 2020 with recommendation of the professor. So continuous value was 16.37 plus the book value at year 20, 26.14. Total target price of 42.50. So the comparable.
What do you believe accounts for the huge difference between the valuation here versus the valuation? Go back to the residual earnings again. So you use the same RA, I mean the required return?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And the discount rate was 6.74
Yes.
in this case. So you use basically the cost of equity here.
The cost of equity.
Okay. what kind of growth did you use here, growth rate?
The 1.44%. The ROE times blowback ratio she mentioned before.
So the comparables quickly, we also focused, as Juan said, on the major competitors of the industry. So we focused more on these multiples, so the enterprise value over sales, enterprise value over EBITDA, then price over sales and price over book value. Our multiples were for sales 3.51, net income 38.6, and book value 8.54. That number that you see on the bottom, that is the average of all the values. So yeah, those are the valuations based on comparables for these multiples. And these are the net income, the revenues of Walmart, the net income, and then the book value as well. So our recommendation is.
So what was the valuation here based on comparables for Walmart?
I don't understand.
What was the valuation based on comparables for Walmart?
So in average, we based on the average, it was 893 billion.
Okay, but what is that per share? Just
We
include
don't
that
have
in
it,
the
we don't
report.
have it in this. We don't have it in the
Include that
report.
in the report.
Yeah, we do have it in the
So
report. Yeah, in the Excel we have everything.
And then send, you're gonna electronically send it to me as well.
We're gonna provide you with everything.
Yeah,
Our
okay.
sources.
Just electronically send it to me, that's fine.
Yeah, no problem.
I don't need a hard copy.
So, as a conclusion, just a quick overview of what we spoke. Because of the beta of 0.65, this is considered a defensive stock. The amazing progress that Walmart has been able to do in the e-commerce, also their investments in sectors that are growing very quickly, and as well the markets that are very notable as India, through, for example, Flipkart, the strong US economy right now. Although the lower growth in international markets, Walmart has been able to sustain their growth and has been able to show the whole market that they are able to go through these bad moments, and as well as stable dividend growth. We do recommend buying Walmart because of all these conditions, and we do believe that Walmart is a great choice. Thank you.
I'm just wondering, if you were to do the risk-free rate based on the revenue generation, geographic source of revenue generation, and also not take into account the inflation on your perpetual growth rate, the growth rate into perpetuity, and use the nominal growth rate, right? What that would be. So that's an exercise that you